Welcome to Go Home Heat, a wrestling podcast. We have the Go Home Heat Kid Ray, Justin, New Japan Jared is feeling under the weather, so he will not be here to participate in said podcast.
Yeah.
Okay, Impact Wrestling, we will start with. We just saw little clips from it out here. I watched the whole thing earlier. We're going to go through Impact, AEW Dark. I'm going to talk a little bit about an Eli Drake thing that I saw, and which is going to just kind of gloss over the NWA, what they're doing right now. And also, then we'll get into the main event of the week, the post-pay-per-view Dynamite episode. Or you could say the Tyson episode.
Yes.
Ace Austin versus Hernandez. It winds up being a good match. We'll go through this whole episode quickly. Ace winds up getting the win there. Cody Deaner has a... There is a cinematic wrestling thing going to happen here as we go to the...
That's one way that came to
Deaner camp. The first segment in which you see a really cool guy on a cool motorcycle driving towards a compound.
Mm-hmm.
And it is not actually anybody that's involved in any of this. And Deaner is in a beat-up old golf cart and says, slow down. This ain't no boneyard.
This ain't no boneyard.
Which harkens to... They do callbacks from other shows.
Another cinematic matches throughout the whole thing.
Correct, which is well
Several
done.
of them.
Mm-hmm. Then we get a Chris Bay, Johnny Swinger promo where Johnny Swinger shows you why he's the most important thing in all of wrestling right now.
Yes. He tells you he's got the quarter roll, he's got the Fuji powder, which could mean several things, actually.
Yes. And he's got the taped up stuff for the hands. You just let me know. We'll use it. All of these things, by the way, are in his fanny pack.
Of course.
Because...
Where else would you
And what Swinger does effectively is, in a comedic way, bridge the gap between what used to be wrestling and what is currently wrestling, and allows you to remember that it's all fun.
Yes, thank you.
And he does it so well. He has his T-shirts do the Twisted Sister emblem for Johnny Swinger.
Yes.
Oh, it's perfect. Okay. Oh, and then he says, "You just let me know. We'll come up with a plan." And Chris Bay says, "We'll just go out there and come up with something when we get there." And he goes, "Call it in the ring, old school, daddy."
I like it.
I like it.
Dude,
okay.
He's just money.
Mm-hmm. The North show up at the compound in a limo, and they laugh because the Deaners have misspelled compound and Deaner.
Technically.
Chris Bay versus Jake Deaner, who is somehow in the States. He may not actually be living with the Deaners on the compound. Of course, the other guy wasn't living. Cody wasn't living with him either. He was living actually in somebody else's yard earlier in the week. Bay winds up hitting a springboard famouser into the last finesse, and we are big fans of springboard famouser.
That looks really cool. That whole match was a lot better than I gave it credit for. Johnny Swinger only interfered, he was very effective pretty much when he interfered. I liked that. Chris Bay has got some serious moves.
He's going to be good, especially as he starts to figure out how to work with the guys in the company because he's fairly new to it. And
his fat lip was impressive, too.
Yes, he has stitches under his lip, which gives
that ring tattoo.
He has a ring tattoo on his chest that Ray is not a fan of.
I don't know if I could... I'm not going to say anything mean.
Okay, we'll move on.
Nice of
They
him.
proceed to beat up Jake afterwards. Jake is a huge man, but they double team him afterwards, and Willie Mack comes out to save him, and we're going to go into some form of program there. Raji gets interviewed after that, and he is upset and disgruntled by his treatment.
Upset and disgruntled.
Both by his treatment, because he lost a match, which means he goes to the bottom of the card where all these other idiots lose, and it doesn't matter until TNA guys come in and get to wrestle, and they don't have to prove themselves at all. So he's upset. Kimberly versus Havoc is a good match. Gabe, whatever her name is, the girl who's been staring and watching Havoc's matches, winds up keeping Kimberly from cheating 2 weeks in a row and winning. So we do have a new faction of some kind, or team, with Havoc and Jabe. I don't know exactly how she said that, but they do a tandem cutter, which was pretty cool.
Uh-huh.
Havoc kind of slams her opponent into a cutter.
Yeesh, I
Yeah.
like that. I like that move.
Yeah, it was cool. Then Kiera Hogan and Tasha wind up getting into it, Kylie Ray and Susie, and we're probably going to get some form of. Now, what we may be getting is some form of tag team warfare anyway, as we see Havoc getting a partner, Kiera Hogan and Tasha getting a partner, and Kylie Ray, it looks like, and Susie. As they argue and start to, as Hogan and Tasha start to beat up Kylie Ray, and then they beat up Susie, Susie begins to have mental issues where she starts to remember that she is also Su Yung. And at some point, that's going to come out. That is good. The North gets to the compound. Joey Ryan says, I have issues with mentally unwell Steve, who is actually Crazy Steve.
That's not appropriate.
But he wouldn't do that because that's not appropriate. And he invites OVE to help them, and the Christ brothers are excited because they've lost Madman Fulton, and they've been on a bad run, and they hope to be able to get some guidance from a calm, forward-thinking man like Joseph
P.
Ryan. Yes. The P stands for
I'm no idea.
Predict.
Oh.
Predict. I'm almost sure of that. The North doesn't know who Wheels is as they get this thing going. And and once it gets going, this cinematic thing is wild. They show up and they're inside of a barn, it looks like.
It's definitely a barn.
And you have the Diener family tree, which is somewhat of a stump, it would appear.
It's a telephone pole at the best.
Yes. And the one guy mentions that there's a brother, cousin, uncle all in one over there.
Mm-hmm.
And then they start to fight. You have a referee with, I'm going to be careful as we go through this, who doesn't have legs.
Yes.
And that is a part of this match.
Mm-hmm.
There is a very large, they begin to hurl. They can't figure out who Wheels is. And there's a attractive young lady who drives a tractor.
Not Wheels, apparently.
Is not Wheels. The man who is in the wheelchair and is the referee is not Wheels.
Not Wheels either.
But as he gets frustrated and starts throwing Hot Wheel cars, we find out Wheels is actually a man with an affection for Hot Wheels cars who is also somewhere around 6'2", 590 pounds.
He big boy.
Of cornbread and butter and collards.
Lots
a lot of lard. They cook with lard on the Diener compound, it would seem. Very large man, does not look as if he exercises.
No, he reminds me of the Beer City Bruisers.
Correct. And so they get into it. They fight all over the compound. They destroy a car that probably didn't have wheels that rolled anyway.
No. That engine had a squirrel nest in it, probably.
They had a fight near something that you would put a horse in, whatever you call those little horse trailers. Yes.
That's
whatever you call a horse trailer.
Yes,
what
you call it.
Then they fight on top of again, you had the Orton Edge match where they fought on top of the back of the 18-wheeler. You had the Ciampa Gargano match that did the same thing. And, of course, we did that here. DDT, hey, I got the big one over here. They go to there. They decide they're going to...
No, I thought he hit him with a pile driver on it.
He hit him with a pile driver on top of the thing.
Yes.
And then they say, hey, we got the big one isolated here. Let's go come in here and pin him. We're going to finish this thing like we finished things in the ring, which winds up they weren't able to finish him off like they wanted, and then they take liberties with the ref, who takes liberties with them.
That dude had a couple good little spots, didn't he?
He did an amazing 360 splash, but he just didn't hit anything.
Yeah, and he did the 619.
He did a 619,
right? Tiger feint kick.
But he got hit. He got kicked in the head.
Severely.
Which caused their referee to come in and do one of the faster, almost as fast as whose 3 counts, Ray?
Earl Hebner.
Almost that fast.
Yes. Earl Harkinen.
1-3.
1-3.
1-3.
Great. 1-3.
It was awesome. This was great. I mean, it just was exactly what Impact kind of is, just craziness. They get chased. The North wins, but gets with their own promoter who winds up being the actual ref and then the backup ref, and then they run away as they're being chased with men with pitchforks. Just like it should have been.
That's how it happens in real life, isn't it?
TJP fell a ball next. This is... What did they say about... Oh. I've been watching as the North snatch boredom out of the jaws of fun.
Oh, nice.
That's nice. But the Rascals come up very stoned and on their way to the Circle K, I assume, to get snacks.
And slushies.
Set up a match. And then they wind up with a treehouse segment where they make fun of Moose. All of this stuff is
Moose
fun.
showed up and legitimately made fun of himself, kind of.
Yes. And then they laughed and helped that process. Moose thought that maybe Trey, who's going to wrestle the Wizard Thumb, Michael Elgin. To a match, but that didn't materialize because they don't believe his TNA title is real
legit
either.
They've been smoking a lot, but they ain't been smoking that much.
And your main event of the evening, Trey Miguel versus Michael Elgin. After they announced that Diana
Purrazzo,
the virtuoso Diana Purrazzo, is now joining Impact, and they have maybe the deepest women division of all of wrestling.
They do have
Impact,
a great group of talent there.
Right. Rosemary's with Johnny Bravo. She looks to be abducting his soul at any episode coming up now, which should
I think
be
he's
fun.
pretty okay with that, though. I don't think that he's really going to complain.
I don't think other than Taya Boston Moran, women paying much attention.
No.
So Rosemary saying "we" when she talks about herself in Johnny Bravo's mind may be that he thinks he's getting attention from more than one woman.
Yes.
And not the actual demons that are running through Rosemary's head.
Yes.
Which he should rethink that.
Yes, because he should definitely reconsider where his life choices led him.
Anybody, if you're dating somebody and Satan is my daddy is her t-shirt.
Yeah.
I Put the Fun in Funerals was the one she was wearing earlier.
I loved that one.
Yeah.
I loved that one.
Right. Ugh. Okay, so Elgin winds up in a match. It is fairly good. Trey Miguel is a great...
What? Trey Miguel was really good, yes.
5-star Michael Elgin.
5-star Michael Elgin.
He had a 5-star match against Davey Richards.
There you go.
Yes, that did happen.
This was not 5 stars, actually.
This was not.
No.
But it was okay, and Trey Miguel showcased what he can do and gets a sneaky little 1-2-3 win there after Sami Callihan interrupts with his cyber antics.
Yes. Sami Callihan.
Hackerman. Moving on to the next episode.
Learn the code.
So Trey Miguel will get a title shot against Miss... What's the champ's name? Come on, man. Tully Blanchard's daughter. Tessa. Against Tessa Blanchard.
Against the Great White Hope. What?
The Great White Hope. Soon to be... Yes, absolutely. Moving on. NWA is doing these things. Now, what NWA is doing right now is they're allowing all of their artists to kind of have their own little YouTube shows, or as many artists want to. And Eli Drake had one that I actually sat down and watched. There was some form of a girl power one that looks like a series of females on theirs. It was about an hour and 28 minutes. I hadn't got to that yet. The Drake one was over an hour. Nick Aldis has an episode coming out, and this is the Carneyland thing that they're talking about. And I find it a neat way to do things. There's only so much content somebody can absorb, and when you add so many people to the mix, it is going to be hard to keep up with that. But by the same token, why not put it out there? What does it hurt?
No, and it keeps people keeping eyes on your product.
Right, and Eli was interesting here. He talks a little bit about the Jordan miniseries, but then when he gets away from that, he starts going into wrestling, and he talks about a couple of things I thought were interesting. He noticed that Brian Pillman had said something online about how much better Brian Pillman Jr. about how much better wrestling is now than it once was, and he points out that maybe it's crisper now.
Flashier.
Yeah, he said, but there's only so far you can go, and when everybody's doing a dive every match, it loses its appeal. And he said, not only that, but people haven't done arm drags. People don't know what that feels like. People don't know what a body slam feels like. People don't know what a choke slam feels like. But you do know what a thumb to the eye feels like.
Yes.
You do know what just getting slapped feels like. And he said, and if you don't sell those things properly. The people can't figure out what the other kind of feels like. And he said, and if you do the dives and then you pop up and continue doing things, all of those things, he's basically, at what point does it?
It loses. It's too much.
Yeah.
And one of the things I wish they would do more of is, instead of the super kick, I hit you with a super kick, you bounce off the rope, you come back with a flying knee, I bounce off the rope, I come back with a spinning back kick, is instead of us eating it, I throw the super kick and you slip out of the way and hit me with a leg sweep. You don't just eat it and turn it on me.
Mm-hmm.
Dodge it. Do something that still makes the move dangerous.
Right.
My technique gets to show off.
Maybe I should be trying to get out of the way of these punches.
Yes, instead of I hate to agree with old Cornette sometimes, but Eli's making the same point.
Right.
Is that that's but if you go again to that Timothy Thatcher Matt Riddle match, you got to see those punches look tight. The grappling looks tight. The movement, all that stuff, did he do a couple flashy things?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, but that was not the focus of the match.
Right. And that's what we were talking about at some point. What I think he's saying is, at some point you have to dial it back. Like when you had Hardy that was really on that run in TNA, and he's jumping off the highest point of every building they're wrestling in at every pay-per-view. At some point, when does it get, Shane can only go to the top of the Titantron.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can only go from off the top of the cell. At some point, you have to bring it back down to make it feel like it's real.
Yes.
And another point he had, which I thought was really interesting, was he said, the Attitude Era, The Rock, The Godfather, Triple H, Mick Foley, all those guys understood how you talk people into the ring.
Exactly.
How you make people care about what's going to happen when the bell rings, before the bell rings.
Well, ultimately, if it doesn't, I don't care what flashy move you do, if it doesn't serve the purpose of telling the story or advancing the story, it doesn't help. It's not, the purpose is to tell stories in the ring. The purpose of, if you go back to the classic tale, like Hercules, the purpose of Hercules being super strong was not for him to go around picking stuff up. Nobody cares if Hercules picked up a giant ox and set it down. No, it was, I have to fight, the Hydra to redeem myself for Hera making me kill my family. There was a plot to why he was doing these great and powerful actions. It served a purpose of advancing a plot.
Right. And one thing he says, too, is he says, nobody comes up to you in the middle of the week and says, Frog Splash! People will come up to you in the middle of the week and say, do you smell what the Rock's cooking?
Yes.
You know what I mean? And that's the thing. And I thought about it. Now, who's the most popular pro wrestler in the world right now that isn't in WWE? Moxley, right?
I'd say that's up there.
Moxley or Cody?
Well, if Cody is, then it's because of what Cody's done that has nothing to do with television, right? Mm-hmm. It's because he's taken on the monster.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Am I wrong?
No, you're right. I agree with that, because he's
the face of we're trying a different path.
Yeah.
Right? And so, you know what, though? To your point, Cody has been good on the stick.
Oh, extremely good.
Moxley is good on the stick. Neither one of them is killing you with these great matches. Moxley's had some pretty good brawls.
Yes.
But again, you see Moxley go to the top rope every now and then.
Chris Jericho, baby. Jericho is so freaking
Jericho
over.
is probably as over or more so than both of them.
Yes.
Just that he's not a babyface right
He
now.
Just walks out there and starts talking, dude, and he'll talk you into the... Doesn't matter. He saves Mike Tyson this week.
He made that, yeah. Right, but my point is, and to your point, Ray, as well, with Cody, is it's the talking that makes the match matter. And when you have a JR, when Moxley goes to the top rope and JR says, oh,
yeah,
he's digging into his bag of tricks here. This is something he doesn't normally do.
Yes.
See, that matters rather than when you get somebody doing, 12 coffin drops and 3.
Yes.
I love Darby, but I'm watching him and I think, oh, I can't wait for the car wreck. But I'm not looking forward to it like I am every time I see Mox.
No, it's not like I'm watching that. It's like I'm watching NASCAR.
Right.
I'm waiting for the wreck.
Right.
I'm not waiting. I don't care who wins the race.
Right. And I don't care who wrecks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which turns it into a bland. It's the weirdest thing. Too much can be bland too.
Of course it can. It overwhelms the senses.
Right. So another thing he said, which I thought was interesting, was earlier in his career, he would go to the ROH show and he would go to all these other shows and not say anything, hoping somebody would just invite him to do something and know what he was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, and eventually I got older and a little more mature, and I started realizing how I had to learn how to sell myself and things like that. And there was a thing, they were talking to Seth on backstage, and they asked him what he learned at FCW, and I thought it was going to really be a bit of a storm, but it wasn't, because what he said was, I learned how to politic.
Mm-hmm.
He said, when I was in ROH, I had wrestled Daniel Bryan. He left out some other names, but he'd wrestled Kenny Omega, Daniel Bryan, Samoa Joe. He'd wrestled all the great wrestlers. He knew he
wrestled Tommaso Ciampa when he was over there.
Right. He didn't put in any new wrestling tricks when he got to WWE.
No.
He knew how to wrestle. What he had to learn how to do was manipulate what happens behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where Terry Taylor threatening to fire him, or Hunter threatening to get rid of him every other week for a while, according to all of them, he learned to navigate those waters.
Yes.
And that's what Eli's talking about too. It's like everything. Everybody has to learn how to get along with their teammates or your coworkers, and also your bosses and all that other stuff. But I thought for sure that would be looked at negatively, and it wasn't.
Well, he's mature enough to recognize this part of the business is just as much as any other part of the business, and you got to do it.
Right. Exactly right. Now, so we're going to move on from that, but if you want to enjoy some of these things, I found it, because what Eli was doing was talking about the part of pro wrestling that we don't get once a show starts.
Yes.
The interesting stuff. You know what I mean? I watch the show, but then tell me why does the show work? Right?
Yeah, how the sausage got made.
Right. Which nobody's supposed to want to know, but I do. All right, so we get to AEW Dark, and I'm just going to blow through this real quick. Excalibur and Taz are talking. You get a Dark Order match with Silver and Reynolds versus the Nightmares, Dustin and QT. QT winds up winning, and the interesting thing here is the bunny eats his apple, and he seems smitten with the bunny.
Oh, yeah.
Michael Nakazawa winds up wrestling Brandon Cutler, and they make a big deal out of Brandon Cutler losing by count out because he's never actually won a match, and they seem to be pushing that he's never won a match, which is interesting. He also winds up going to commentary. Avalon versus Jungle Boy. Jungle Boy wins by submission, which was interesting. He's got a nice little submission.
What do you use?
It was one of those things where the legs were tied up and he kind of leaned back. I don't know what the name of it is, but it was neat. It was neat. Serpentico versus Daniels. We get a best moonsault ever win there. John Schuyler and Brady Pierce versus Sonny Kiss and Joey Janela, which is an odd pairing, but it worked. They win, and Janela's been in a couple of different matches where they're mixing him in and out with
different groups,
which is interesting too, right? Tony Donati and Fabu Andre versus Kip and Jimmy Havoc, and they wind up winning, and they're starting to push Kip and Havoc.
I like it. I like
too.
it. They're selling on Havoc. They're really selling him hard, and I like it.
A huge man named Grimace versus Wardlow.
Like the McDonald's guy?
I would guess, because they didn't call him Grimace.
Grimace.
Was he purple?
He's huge.
Is he huge and purple?
He wasn't purple.
So was he terrifying?
He was very big, but he couldn't have been terrifying because he was he was wrestling Wardlow.
Okay, then it wasn't Grimace. Didn't Grimace wasn't Grimace didn't he steal?
He was just a big purple people eater kind of a thing.
That's and he's terrifying.
Oh, okay, sure, go with that. E.T.'s terrifying to me, so I'm not gonna judge anybody.
Everybody gets their terror in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, the terror was Wardlow beating up Grimace, and then when it was over, it was interesting because MJF forced him to do the spinning throw.
Uh-huh.
And I thought it the first time I've seen him do it. Every time I've seen him do it, I think he's going to hurt somebody doing that. And that guy was too big for him to try to do that too. And he landed awkwardly. And that move scares me for everybody.
Well, yeah, because you got no control of your body in that space, hardly. Right. Unless you're really good.
This dude's 260,
that's a lot of weight. Dude, that's a lot of weight combining when you come down.
Right. Lee Johnson versus Colt Cabana. Cabana wins in a submission. Penelope Ford won in a match against a young lady named King. And she was big. The King girl was big. The match was pretty good. They were feeling each other out. It was strange. I mean, that's why you have these dark things. Sean Dean and Alan Angels versus the Best Friends. The Best Friends go over, and they are, at that moment in time, they were the number one contenders. That is not how it continued. As we get to AEW Dynamite, Excalibur, Tony Schiavone, JR, Broken Matt Hardy, and the Bucks are backstage, and the Bucks get to pick which Matt Hardy they wrestle
Well,
with.
and first you had Hangman Page and Kenny Omega there, and they were decided that they did not need to be there for the rest of the show because I'm not sure they were down for Broken Matt Hardy at that moment. I know that Hangman was not.
Right.
I like that they went all the way to first Matt Hardy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he goes away. He's Damascus at first, and he goes away and comes back as Velocity 1, I believe, and then he goes away.
Version 1.
Yeah. Version 1, and then comes back as the spandex tights and all that, Matt Hardy. And they go out and have what does he say? You want to be spot monkeys?
Yeah, we'll be spot monkeys.
Yes, and of course the Bucks are all in on being spot monkeys. And so they go out there and they have a good match. It's a fine match. They fight. Joey Janela, who we mentioned, has been going out with Private Party. At some point, Queen tweaks his knee.
Dude, yeah, he hit it. He fell on it coming over the top rope on something.
Hopefully he's okay. Matt actually carries him. After the Bucks wind up getting the win, Matt actually carries him to the
back. Which almost makes me think it's work, but I don't know, because that leaves the Bucks out there for Butcher and Blade to come back in, because they accidentally hit Blade with a super kick earlier in the match, and then jumped them when they fought back.
Right.
So we could set up the appearance of
Cash Wheeler and Dax Harwood, who are more affectionately or less affectionately, depending on your opinion, known as the Revival. Mm-hmm. And so we wind up getting them pulling up in a very nice old school truck.
Yes.
Getting out, going up there, and we think we're going to get, because there has been a rivalry online between the Bucks and the Revival for years. We think we're getting that. Instead, they beat up the Butcher and the Blade. And so we're kicking that can a little bit down the road, but there's still a little awkwardness between the Bucks and them. So this is going to be good. For anybody, unless your name is Hybrid, in which case you have no chance of making it to television.
Never.
Ever. Leave.
You don't know where you're going.
Because think about the tag team division. You already haven't seen a lot of these guys, and then you stick the Revival right in the middle of it. And they're really good.
Their tag team division is super deep.
Yeah, and yet we've been limited as to how many we get to see. Partially due to what's going on in the world anyway. But anyway, Mox comes up, and he's going to watch Cage versus Lee Johnson. He watches Cage wreck Lee Johnson. To me, Mox does a good job of putting over his title reign and putting over Cage.
Yes.
Taz comes into the ring after the match is over and gives a classic Taz promo, which is good in a way, but also to me it was like, Cage is a big enough deal. You could have come up with some words that involve Cage.
Yeah, but he did say he kind of passed the torch to him a little bit, I think. You know, he said, win if you can, survive if he lets you. You know, he gave him the moniker,
Right, but that's still Taz's catchphrase.
Yeah.
Okay. You liked it?
I don't know enough about. I've never watched enough Brian Cage to know if he has. Does he good on the mic?
No, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say he's bad or good. I definitely think Taz will help him. I just wish Taz would have spent
Vontavious Porter just a couple
of lines that make sense with To me, Taz is so good at talking.
Mm-hmm.
He could have given us some stuff about Cage in there.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Instead of using his old moniker. But like you said, that could also be Taz was this unbelievable wrestling killing machine in ECW.
Yeah.
And I get that he could be passing that torch, like you're saying.
And that's what he said about him. This guy's man is a machine, you know?
Right. And he is. And he was the machine also. Cage's other moniker was Machine before he got there, right? We get thank God, we get some Britt Baker. I thought maybe we wouldn't get Britt Baker, but luckily she came out and decided that
after this, she'll be guest starring on Ancient Aliens, apparently, for the next 6 months.
Conspiracy in which all three women, including her partner, were conspiring to keep her from... And luckily, I'm not only getting Britt Baker, I get Aubrey Edwards involved in a program as well.
Yes.
Because we've decided she is
obviously
a part of this
in on
as
it.
well.
I think you're right on with this suspicions of Aubrey Edwards that you've had.
I think that but I think that the company itself has somehow figured out what I don't want to see and given it all to me in 2 minutes at a time.
And then get rid of then you don't have to watch for the rest of the show.
Yes. No, well, I just can fast forward over that part. I go, oh, look, it's time to go to the bathroom.
Yes.
And then I come back. Hikaru Shida versus... I didn't write her name down well. Christy James?
Who was it, Ray?
She was new though.
Yeah, I haven't seen her.
She was new and she
new
danced.
Against, new one against Hikaru Shida?
Yeah, she had like a Brazilian flag on her shirt somewhere, and she did a little dance every time she did something right.
Yeah, capoeira.
Right. I don't understand why every time somebody does a move, they dance. Especially, that's what gets me about this particular scenario is every time somebody does something good, they have to play to something.
Again, let me harken. I hate to keep bringing this match up, but that was the thing I really enjoyed about. They did it a couple of times with that Thatcher Riddle fight. They just fought each other.
Right. And you know what's crazy is in this day and age, it's so refreshing to see any match. Like, you don't see Moxley. That's what makes Moxley special. He's just there to fight. He's not there to turn and say something to somebody that's outside of the ring. He's not there to ask for a chant during his match. He's just there to fight.
Yeah, and then when he's done, he's going to leave.
Right. And that's what makes him so great. Cody at Open Challenge promo. Ray, you love this.
I see a bunch of people on Twitter calling this the greatest promo ever.
I don't know if they said that.
No.
People are saying that Cody's the best talker in wrestling right now.
People are saying Cody's the best talker in wrestling.
To your chagrin.
Wow.
Remember how I felt about Britt earlier?
Wow.
Look at your face.
Wow.
What did you think? Okay, go ahead.
This was a good promo.
It was fine.
It was perfectly good.
Yes.
And it was very neat.
Yeah. It was 3.5.
3.3. A bit.
Okay.
A bit.
What did you think about it?
Just thought it was another Cody promo.
Well, here was the thing. Here was my thing about it. Okay, and I didn't. I liked it. I'm a bit of a Cody mark anyway, but it was he came out. He points out that Dustin got all the Dusty.
Mm-hmm.
He points out that and I love it when he does the my mom's.
Mm-hmm.
Because there is that I fight everything from down under. You know,
mm-hmm.
But I thought it was interesting that he said I got put on TV too early in the other company. And he said,
I agree with that.
You know, and I grew up in front of your eyes. Which was it, because it's funny though to me, because as a wrestler, I kind of felt like he hasn't quite met his potential. Like when he was early on, I thought, oh, he's going to be pretty good eventually.
Yeah.
And even the Stardust stuff, I thought, this guy owns it. You know what I mean? Like he's owning this role. He
always put himself into it fully.
Yeah, and I felt like, and then for whatever reason, I haven't seen him. I don't know what it is. There's a disconnect to me between what he's able to do and what I think he ought to be able to do.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And then he does say, the thing about I was the fourth call, and I don't buy that for a second, that he was the fourth call.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I'm pretty sure that he was the one that told Meltzer, give me the Bucks and Omega, and I can sell out the indie show. So I'm pretty sure he was a lot quicker than the fourth call. But he may have done that for a different reason.
He might have been the Kenny Omega, Matt, and then what's the other Jackson?
That's what he's saying.
Matt and Nick.
He's counting them as two separate phone calls.
Nick,
yes.
Like we don't know that they still live together and share the same room, bunk bed style.
Yes.
With the kids and wives in other rooms.
They probably have a fireman's pole that they slide down because they love Ghostbusters. I don't know.
But anyway, he's going to do an open thing, and his work rate is going to be crazy.
It's going to be an open challenge when the title is finished.
Yes. SCU versus Kip Sabian and Jimmy
Havoc.
Jimmy Havoc.
This was great.
Yeah, it was. It was a spectacular match.
Dude, that
I like the finish.
What's the move when you the seesaw? Most people did it to Rob Van Dam, and he went straight into the turnbuckle.
Oh, the monkey flip or the fallback?
The fallback, yeah. And to the eye poke.
Yes, that was so
that
slick.
Was the most Jimmy Havoc thing I think.
Yes.
I've ever seen.
Bang! Oh.
And their finisher's great.
Oh, it is.
I don't know what you call it, but it's.
It's like he's holding him up. He's holding him up. Didn't Kenny used to do a move like that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, he used to cross the legs and do a move like that, and then Kip hit him with the drop kick, and then it would happen. But when Kip hit him with the drop kick, they didn't budge or move at all, and it looked very painful.
Yes.
Yes, and this was a good match. Kip and him go over, and we're acting like they're going to wind up getting a title match soon, which I'm all for. I like them as a tag team. I like Penelope on the outside helping them. And she started to help, and it works now.
Mm-hmm.
We get a battle royal with Jurassic Express, Luther, Daniel, Sonny Kiss, Cutler, Colt Cabana, Billy Gunn, Wardlow, MJF, Jungle. Dude, it was a lot of people. Good little battle royal. You wind up having Billy Gunn remind you that he's really huge.
Yes. Wardlow is not as big as Billy Gunn.
No, none of them are.
Luchasaurus is at the dude's chin.
Billy Gunn is enormous.
Yeah, and he's strong, but
dude, I
the
never
important thing
realized how big that guy is.
Yes.
The important thing is Jungle Boy gets the win.
I loved it. I loved it.
You get to have two faces.
Yes.
Which is something we like to have a little mix up there. We didn't have MJF go over, which people thought, and that would have been kind of a repeat. None of the heels go over.
No.
Jungle Boy is getting a push, and I would guess, if you ask me what was the most fun of the Double or Nothing, obviously the Stampede.
Yes.
Mox and Brody did a great job with one another. The best match was MJF, Jungle Boy.
Well, that was the best wrestling match on the card.
And Jungle Boy is getting a push, it feels like, as a result of a performance.
Yes.
Which I love, because when you tell me wins and losses matter, I know it's BS because it's wrestling.
Yes.
When I see a guy go out there and give you a performance,
yes, and
you reward him for that, then what you're telling me is, even though that's baloney,
his performance wasn't.
Correct, and we're evaluating people on the merits of their performances, which in a wrestling world where results are predetermined is wins and losses. If that makes sense. Okay, now we're going to move on because we have an Inner Circle pep rally.
I loved this whole section of things.
It was great. It was great.
Jake Hager.
Tyson is not great at being a pro wrestling thing.
No.
He's a little bit fish out of water, but he is a formidable presence.
Are we getting a match between Mike Tyson and Jericho?
We're getting something between them. We don't know that,
Hopefully.
But it has to be, right?
Well, let's not skip over something really important here. Jake Hager's poetry.
Dude.
With it simultaneously, the ending combined Taken and Tommy Boy. Did you catch the Tommy Boy? From the girl in the middle, like when he was out there on the boat and the kids were making fun of him because the boat was sticking up out of the water. Right. And the girl's like yells at the kids like, I know where you live and I've seen where you sleep, you know? and so help me God, I will find you. And
it was so well done. That was well done. The T-shirts, we have too many T-shirts segment from earlier in the show was well done.
The 2012 LSU National Championship T-shirts that you see.
Even better, they had all, because of the Super Bowls, you had all those, they make 2 sets.
They got to, because everybody has a shirt on after the game. They didn't have time to print the shirts, folks.
To me, what got me was those shirts looked like they could have been Buffalo Bills shirts.
Yes.
Remember they lost like 3 in a row?
Yes.
So they had that feel to them, and they even were a little bit old looking.
Yes.
So they totally could have been, it was just great. And then they tried to give them to the crowd, and the crowd throws them back. And then Ortiz gives out these weird gifts, or Santana, and then you have...
Gives out a picture of Mark Anthony to Chris Jericho.
Who loves it.
Which is even better. A chopped cheddar sandwich for his boy.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Dude, and then...
Guevara gives them trophies, and yet they all say best dads or something.
Yeah, because it's hard to find trophy companies open these. Chris Jericho gives him a scooter.
Oh my God!
And then Tyson comes out with his crew, and that is a crew of killers, dude. Yeah, you got Mike Tyson, you got Vitor Belfort, you got Rashad Evans.
I think that was Rashad Evans, yeah.
Yeah, no, I looked it up. That was Rashad. The other guy's a former bantamweight UFC champion. I forgot his name right off the top of my head. Right. He's a star.
Right.
You've got Mike Tyson. You've got, that's 4.
And Jericho...
murder machines.
Jericho brings up things that happened in another company, because that's when he and Tyson first had issues with one another. And they did, Cody did the same thing. He brought up the other company in his thing. And I do there's a way, I kind of wish they'd get away from that. But by the same token, I guess, with Tyson in this scenario... You almost had to, because of why else would they have a problem with each other?
Hey, Mike Tyson, I remember what happened. I love Chris Jericho.
Right, but Jericho made this segment matter, and this all goes back to, I hear people talking about how pro wrestling is all that matters, and I need all this crazy stuff. And to me, one thing that I said online on the group, the companies, the Go Home Heat Twitter feed, that Dynamite and AEW are in an Eazy-E zone right now.
Yes.
And I meant that as a compliment, because when Nitro was clicking, you were interested in it because of the stories, because of, you did have the, for lack of a better term, spot monkey segments, which weren't really, cruiserweight segments.
Yes.
All the craziness. Before, and that was great. You got a little bit of that. You did have the brawling wrestling as well. You also had personalities.
Yes.
And Jericho brings you to the party with his personality. Moxley brings you to the party because he is the opposite of everything else on your show.
Yes.
Just like, and this is not obviously an Eazy-E thing, but just like Stone Cold brought you to the party because he was not the rest of that television show.
Yeah.
And you have all of that, and AEW is able to give you all of that. And to me, that is why they're getting closer and closer to 1 million people during this time in which a lot of people are watching Netflix. And it's because the personalities matter. And so when I hear somebody say, well, I don't, we hated the fact that Tyson Fury was in WWE.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't, but
I didn't hate
the
that
collective
either.
we world, right? They bring Tyson in, and all of a sudden AEW won't catch that flack.
Yeah, even though of the boxers with Tyson in their name that I know, Tyson Fury's a better talker.
By far. Tyson Fury was named after Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
That's crazy, right?
It's awesome.
And he was talking about fighting. Like, Tyson Fury will fight Mike Tyson if he wants to.
Yes.
Because he figures he's 50 and who cares, right?
Yeah. I would say that if you step in the ring with Mike Tyson, 99 times out of 10, Tyson Fury is going to destroy Mike Tyson because of the age difference.
Right.
But Tyson can put that glove on you, buddy, and put anybody in the...
Right. All it takes is one punch.
That's it.
But Tyson, now, just in a boxing world, Tyson Fury is very good at not getting hit.
hit.
And his head is, 6 foot 8 inches off the ground?
Yes.
And Tyson's fist starts at 4 feet?
Yeah.
Or maybe if he's got him on his nose, 5'10".
Well, that's why I used to do those. He'd rip the body and make him bend over, and then he'd split it with that uppercut, man.
Correct. And he would have to do that again.
Yeah.
But even bent over, he's going to have to land a punch.
He's going to
3 to 4 inches above his head.
He's basically going to have to hit the dragon uppercut from Street Fighter. He's going to have to. He's basically going to have to do that. Right. Yes, that's going to be the move he ends it with.
But
Balrog.
He can land. He can land any of those punches on Jericho.
Yes.
And put him away.
Dude, did you see that?
Did we enjoy?
I enjoyed it. I had
everything?
a good time with it.
Yeah.
You had a good time
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, for Justin, for the Go Meet Kid Ray, for me, KP, we have thoroughly enjoyed the week of wrestling. We hope you did. Have a great week. Copyright 2020. Go home.